I never planned for a single moment to change the course of my life. It's strange how something so small, so accidental, can become the memory you keep replaying long after everyone else has forgotten it. I had always considered Ian my closest friend, steady, dependable, familiar. Someone who made ordinary days feel easier. But sometimes, the familiar is precisely what blinds you to what's growing right in front of you. We met years ago in college, both trying to figure out where we belonged in the world. Friendship came naturally, there were no awkward introductions or forced conversations. We shared music, secrets, and the comfortable silence that only true companionship allows. I trusted him without hesitation, and he trusted me back. At least, that's what I believed. Life after college got busy, but we never drifted too far apart. So when he messaged me to come over one lazy evening, I didn't hesitate. His apartment was the same as always, small, warm, and filled with scattered reminders of his unfocused creativity. A half-finished painting leaned against one wall, while a stack of undone laundry claimed the corner of the couch. We laughed about pointless things. Ian teased me about my overthinking tendencies, while I mocked his obsession with collecting keychains from places he'd never visited. There was comfort in that banter, a safety in being fully seen. Then the smallest detail pulled everything into a new direction. Ian stretched his legs out across the floor, relaxed in a way only he could manage, and his pants, carelessly buttoned, shifted slightly. The fabric loosened at the waist, revealing just enough to make my attention stumble. I didn't mean to look. I didn't mean to notice. But in that brief moment, an unfamiliar spark shot through me, sharp and unwelcome. My chest tightened with surprise. I told myself it was nothing. Just a random thought, a meaningless flicker, yet when I looked up, Ian was already watching me. His expression wasn't judgment or irritation. It was curiosity, quiet, unspoken curiosity that held me in place. His eyes lingered a second longer than normal. I should have looked away. I should have laughed it off. I should have done anything other than what I did next. I reached out and playfully nudged him, pretending to push the moment aside. But when my hand touched his arm, the contact didn't feel playful. It felt like a question. And he didn't pull away. A strange energy settled between us. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. It became difficult to convince myself this was still the same friendship we had always known. Ian, I said his name softly, as if the sound alone could restore the balance. But even I didn't believe the lie I was telling myself. His gaze flicked down, just for a second, toward the space between us. When he looked back up, there was a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Not mocking. Not innocent. Just, aware. You're acting weird, he said gently, though there was no real accusation in his voice. Maybe I was. Maybe something inside me had shifted long before tonight, and I was only now noticing. My heartbeat felt louder than my thoughts. I tried to speak, to anchor myself in logic, but instead the silence grew thicker, almost expectant. The warmth in my chest spread outward, wrapping around the moment like a confession without words. Before fear could stop me, I leaned closer. Not much. Just enough that I could feel his breath mix with mine, just enough to blur the line we had never crossed. Ian didn't move away. The world shrank to the closeness between us, to the possibility of something neither of us had dared to define. Every second stretched thin with anticipation. When my lips brushed his, not fully, not even long enough to call it a kiss, it still felt like stepping off the edge of my life as I knew it. Ian exhaled softly, and for the first time ever, I looked at him not as my best friend, but as someone I wanted in a way I couldn't explain. Then the moment broke. He leaned back, his eyes wide, his smile gone. Confusion flickered across his face, mirroring the chaos inside me. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Everything had already changed, and I knew this was only the beginning. I woke up the next morning pretending nothing monumental had occurred. Denial is sometimes easier than reflection. But the moment with Ian, those breath-length inches, that silent consent, would not dissolve into ordinary memory. It clung to me like warmth that refused to fade. On the surface, I tried to continue life as usual. I returned to my partner, Zara, who sensed my distance before I even understood it myself. She asked if everything was fine. I said yes. The lie tasted bitter, but I swallowed it anyway. I convinced myself that if I ignored what happened, guilt would stop clawing at me, yet the truth followed me everywhere. Ian didn't reach out that day. Or the next. His silence was not avoidance, it was pressure, forcing me to confront what I had crossed. On the third evening, I finally received a message from him. Can we talk? Just 3 words. Simple. Heavy. My heart stuttered as I typed, I'm coming. His apartment felt different the moment I stepped inside. The lights were dimmed, and the casual chaos that usually filled his home had been tamed. He appeared more composed too, though his eyes betrayed a restless uncertainty that we stood there, both waiting for the other to speak first. About the other night, Ian began, voice careful, as if testing the stability of thin glass that I inhaled slowly. We should forget it. It was a mistake. He blinked, surprised but not wounded. Was it? His tone wasn't accusatory, only curious, the same curiosity that first ignited this path that I wanted to say yes. I needed to say yes. But the word refused to form. Silence delivered the real answer. Ian stepped closer, not touching me, but close enough that the air shifted. I've always admired you, he confessed quietly. Maybe more than I should. My pulse echoed through my ears. Ian. I'm with Zara. I know, he replied, regret flickering in his gaze. But I can't unfeel what I feel. His honesty disarmed me. It made everything more real. And more dangerous. That we sat on the couch, an arm's length apart, though the distance felt much smaller. Ian talked about loneliness, about seeking connection in a world that often misunderstood him. While he spoke, I realized how deeply I needed to feel chosen too. He saw parts of me that I rarely allowed anyone to see, not even Zara. That comfort, that emotional exposure, was the real temptation. That he looked at me with hope wrapped in fear. Tell me. I imagined that moment, he whispered. And I'll never bring it up again. But I couldn't. Our hands rested on the couch cushion, close enough that one small shift would bridge the space. I watched his fingers twitch, hesitant, wanting. My hand moved first, barely a brush, yet it felt like a declaration. Ian inhaled sharply, eyes shining with something both terrified and grateful. He took my hand fully, his grip firm yet trembling. The warmth shot through me, and my resolve unraveled. That we leaned into each other slowly, not rushing, as if savoring the courage to cross a second boundary. Our foreheads touched, creating a fragile cocoon of breath and emotion. I could feel his heartbeat through the silence. I don't want to hurt anyone, I murmured. Then let's just be honest, he said. With ourselves, at least. His words struck something buried deep. I had spent years living by expectations, good partner, loyal friend, dependable son, but in Ian's presence, I felt like someone with choices, someone deserving of desire. Our lips met again. This time, the moment lingered. It wasn't reckless or rushed. It was gentle confession. A yes we both understood. When we finally pulled away, neither of us spoke. There was nothing left to say. Our actions had already written the truth. That I looked at my hand still intertwined with his, and any hope that this was just curiosity or confusion disappeared. We had stepped knowingly into forbidden territory. Zara's name flashed in my mind like a warning siren, but I couldn't look away from Ian. His eyes held a silent plea, stay with me in this moment. That I didn't know where this path would lead. I only knew one thing with painful certainty, this wasn't an accident anymore. That it was a choice, and I had already made it. The hardest part of carrying a secret isn't the fear of being caught, it's the constant reminder that every ordinary moment has become a lie. I went home that night pretending to be the same person Zara trusted. I tried to hug her with the same warmth, laugh with the same sincerity, speak with the same openness. But every gesture felt borrowed, like I was performing a role that no longer fit. She noticed immediately. Zara always noticed the things I thought I could hide. You're different, she said over breakfast, her tone light but her eyes searching. Did something happen? I forced a smile. Just tired. The lie pressed against my lungs, leaving barely enough air to breathe. I told myself I was protecting her. But deep down, I knew I was protecting myself, from accountability, from heartbreak, from truth. Ian and I avoided words for a few days, but the silence between us was louder than our confessions had been. Every notification on my phone was a question: do I want this to continue? And every time I thought of how his hand had felt wrapped around mine, I already knew the answer. On a quiet evening, Ian finally called. His voice trembled, though he tried to steady it. "We can't keep pretending this isn't real," he said. "I need to know where we stand." I hesitated. My world had divided itself into two truths, both demanding loyalty. "I don't want to lose you," I admitted. "But I don't want to hurt Zara." "You can't have both," he whispered, the fairness of his words cut deeper than blame ever could. He asked me to meet him the following day. I agreed before I allowed myself to consider the consequences. That night, I lay awake next to Zara, watching her sleep peacefully while my chest tightened under the weight of my choices. She stirred, resting her hand over mine. For a moment, I wanted time to freeze, before I ruined everything, but morning arrived regardless. I reached Ian's building with a heaviness that made each step feel like a decision. He opened the door with eyes full of cautious hope. We didn't embrace. The space between us was no longer charged with possibility, it was filled with questions waiting for answers. "I want to understand what we are," Ian said. "Not what we were, not what we almost are, what we are now." I looked at him, really looked. This was the friend who had made me laugh when life felt unbearable, the person who had always stood beside me without asking for anything in return. But now he was asking for everything, and I couldn't blame him. "I care about you," I said softly. "More than I should." Ian stepped closer, searching my face for the truth buried behind hesitation. "Then choose me." The words settled heavily between us. Choose him, and risk everything familiar. Choose Zara, and bury everything real. My silence stretched into a verdict neither of us wanted. "I can't make that decision today," I said, my voice cracking on each word. Pain flickered through his expression, but he didn't look away. "Just don't lie to yourself anymore." A single tear slipped down his cheek before he could stop it. I reached out instinctively, but he took a half step back, just enough to remind me that love, once tangled, never untangles cleanly. "I need time," I whispered. "And I'll give it to you," he replied. "But not forever." The finality in his tone was gentle, not threatening, an ultimatum built on self-respect rather than desperation. I left his apartment with my heart split open, each beat a reminder of the choice waiting ahead. Outside, the air smelled like rain, fresh, uncertain, ready to wash clean whatever it touched. I stood beneath the wide gray sky, feeling suspended between two worlds, belonging fully to neither. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. Ian's message appeared, fragile and hopeful: "Take care of your heart. It deserves honesty." For the first time, I didn't respond immediately. I needed to stand still long enough to hear the truth beneath the noise. I didn't know who I would choose. I only knew that whichever path I followed, someone would break, and maybe, in the end, that someone would be me.